Hey everyone, welcome to Quad Culture. With me today is the first ever Quad Culture employee that wasn't me, our music writer, sports writer. Basically, she writes about everything. Lizzie, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Caleb. How are you?
Good. I know you were a little bit worried about the intro coming in. Was it good?
Pretty good. Wow.
Gosh, I didn't even
I
know
mean,
that
I
was a
did get a
thing.
little bit more of a heads up as to what to expect, but that was really fun and exciting. Some
I didn't even
fireworks?
know that was a thing.
Yeah, me
Fireworks.
neither.
Holy.
Let me try.
Okay. So recently for the blog, you you did an article about Taylor Swift. You ranked her albums. You're a huge Taylor Swift fan. You're up to date on all of this. Can you explain some of the criteria and was this a really hard list for you to make as a fan?
Sure. This absolutely was a hard list for me to make as a fan, not because I had a hard time knowing what I thought. I'm pretty decisive and I know what I think, but I know that what I think is not opinions they're hot takes, for lack of a better
Okay.
term. So beware if you read my article, there are hot takes on there.
Yeah.
So my rating criteria was a lot of how memorable I thought they were. See,
Okay.
there are a lot of songs that are pretty low on the list because I can't tell them apart sometimes. The intro plays and I'm
Yeah.
like, what song is this? um Memories behind them, a lot of them
Okay.
I'm biased. One of them was my alarm ringing, like the sound that my alarm would make in the morning,
Yeah.
you know biased.
Which
And then
nobody ever likes. Nobody ever likes the
it's true.
song that becomes their alarm. It always seems
It's
like a
true.
good idea when you're like in middle school and then it just kills
I
a
was in
song.
elementary school. My mom
Yeah.
would flick on the radio and then, yeah, anyway, ruined for me. And then overall, which album had the most songs that I would put on a playlist? Because when you do a full album review, you're like, okay, this song is good, but I would never go out of my way to listen to it. So that's my
Yeah.
criteria. There's a lot that kind of went into it. So,
It's kind of like some albums are better than others because top to bottom there's bangers. Like it might not have the highest
true.
highs, but
There's
it
some good
doesn't have the
ones.
lowest lows. There's
Yep.
something to consistency. And Taylor
Hmm.
Swift obviously super consistent. I mean, we kind of talked about this. I mean, almost all of these
Fairly consistent.
albums have been like nominated for awards and things
That's
like
true.
that. So pretty critically well acclaimed. But what do you think is the most controversial take on your list?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. There's two. One
Okay.
of them I know that you're probably going to comment on. Okay,
Okay.
so the first one is where I put debut. Her debut album, Taylor Swift, I put as number 7.
Okay.
And like I said, I knew what I thought, but I still wanted to poke around the internet to see what other people thought. And on almost every single list, the bottom two albums are either the debut album or Reputation. So I know that putting the debut album that high up on the ranking list, hot take. And then also, I put Red as number 6. Red is viewed, not the full album, but All Too Well is viewed as like one of her best songs ever, which I agree with.
Hmm.
But the rest of the album, just okay.
Do you think there's debut hate because it's like probably one of the more country things she has, and that people maybe don't respond as well to that era of Taylor Swift? They kind of like that sort of in between stage of country music when she's kind of always evolving, and that's kind of like her earliest music. Why do you think people put debut so low?
I think it is very country sounding. Also, her songwriting's obviously progressed a lot, but more than anything else, I think her vocals aren't as good. Which I mean, when she released that, she was young, young.
Yeah.
That was 2006. So obviously, her vocals aren't where they are now, and I think that shows. But I also think that had that album like genuinely, like, if it were, what's the word? If it were worth being ranked last, I don't think she would be the star she was today. I think she just
Yeah.
would have dropped off
Fizzled
faces
out.
after
Yeah.
releasing that album. Yeah.
So one thing that I'm going to kind of hit you with a little bit that I think is really interesting because you kind of led us into a segue that I was going to talk about later,
I
right? Is
did.
Taylor Swift obviously extremely successful early in her career. That's what helped launch her into what she is now. Her
Mhm.
evolution as an artist has also done a lot to kind of help her change with times. But the other thing that we've noticed with Taylor Swift is she has a really good habit of latching herself on to artists who are very talented and who are on the rise of popularity. Like you look at even Olivia Rodrigo, Sabrina Carpenter, Gracie
Mhm.
Abrams. I know, is it Macy Peters? People like to trash on her eras tour, and I like her. I like some of her tunes. Even a Benson Boone. Do you think? that's a lot to her music taste, or do you think that's more to her ability to sort of promote artists?
I think that's her ability to promote artists. I think that because she went into the industry so young, she really keeps an eye out for these younger, smaller artists, not only because she
Mhm.
doesn't want them to fall into this thing where she loses her music and then she has to record everything. She doesn't want that to happen
Yeah.
to anybody else, I'd imagine. And I would also imagine that she doesn't want them to be taken advantage of, but she also feels like she can lend advice to artists that are kind of starting out.
So I assume, just to clarify, I assume when we talk about all these albums, we're talking about Taylor's version, right? We're not listening to
Yes.
the other versions.
Yes,
Okay.
we're not listening. Those are
Okay.
canceled. Don't listen to those.
Can you explain maybe to somebody that's not a Taylor Swift fan why they should listen to the Taylor's version? If they're
I'm
like
so glad
if
you
they're like
asked.
this is dumb, like they're
Great
like this is
question.
stupid.
Great question. So first of all, Taylor's version has songs from the vault. These are songs that were axed when they first came out, but now they're released because she has no recording label to tell her no, i.e., Scooter Braun. All name drop. Second of
Nobody
all,
likes Scooter Braun.
nobody likes Scooter Braun. Scooter Braun was her, I think her original. He was the guy that took control of all of her music, so she didn't own it. So she re-recorded all of her albums. Is still in the process of doing so. I think she has two
Hmm.
more. Um, she re-recorded all of them pretty much so she owned them, so she could say what if they went into a movie. It like pretty much just things like that. So Scooter Braun, we don't like him, and that's why we listen to Taylor's version because
That's why I
that's the
listen to
music that
Taylor's
she
version.
owns.
Okay, so we want to make sure she makes more money.
True. Yeah. Exactly.
So back to your list. When you look at all of Taylor Swift's albums, obviously for somebody so young, very dense discography. What do you think is the hardest album to place? Like when you were making this list, what was one maybe near the middle or something where you were like, I just don't know where this goes?
Oh, I'm glad that you specified near the middle because there was definitely a point where I was like, man, these are all equal in my opinion. But the first one that I had a hard time placing was Reputation. I think because she was like technically canceled during this era, people love to hate it. And I think because it's so different from what she's put out, people are like, wow, hate this. So it's also relatively pretty low on all the other rankings that I looked at just because I was curious. And also, Fearless, a wonderful masterpiece that was my alarm clock in elementary school. So because of that, it ended up a little lower
So that
than
I
it
mean,
should have been.
that one's one that you have like a love hate relationship with because
Yes, yes. I think it's a
nostalgic, but also
wonderful
like,
album though. But
but it
yeah,
makes you think of the
no.
mornings. So let's get into the juicy part of this. This is the part that everybody wants to hear, which is my super uneducated. I know a little bit about Taylor. I grew up with sisters. I got outvoted in the car. I've listened to a lot of Taylor Swift. I'm not a
Okay.
hater. I watched her documentary today.
You're
I've
not.
been known to not be her biggest supporter, but I'm definitely not,
Okay.
with like the cancel Taylor Swift
Here we come with the
bandwagon
hot
here.
takes. Give them
So
to me.
here's the hot take. As a person that likes Taylor Swift, yeah, I know we're talking about like album consistency, but what is Red doing outside the top five?
Yeah,
Borderline the top
I knew we were
three.
gonna say that. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
It's crazy.
List two other songs that match the lyrical, just how amazing lyrically All Too Well is. You can't. All Too Well, that?
Red,
No,
literally
no,
red.
no.
Sometimes you don't have to be elaborate. You just have to get to the point. I listen to Red and I relate
Red, red, red,
100%.
red, 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 red.
I
What
get
point
it.
does that get to? Never mind. Scratch that
I
out. Can you
understand.
not put that in there? That was a stupid question.
Okay.
No, take
Well,
that out.
so here's the thing with Red. The song, firstly, super emotionally and impactful, right? Like she's using colors to describe how she feels. That's as simple as it gets. But she's killing it. And it sounds good. It's poppy. I was listening to it while I was cleaning today. Awesome. Awesome song.
Okay, wait. Can I
Also,
just recite some of the lyrics for you real quick?
yeah.
First, we have All Too Well. Did the twin flame bruise paint you blue? Just between us to the love affair made me too. Versus
Yeah.
loving you was red, 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 red. Losing him was blue, 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 blue. Lyrically, You see where I'm coming from?
Okay. I can't
I
pull
wouldn't tell
lyrics
her she's
out
a
here,
lyrical
but
genius. It's poppy. It's fun.
but
Lyrically,
but you pulling out that is just not fair. Like you just used one part of the
those
song
were the
Red.
lyrics. Those were
It's
the
not the
lyrics.
entire song. Okay. You know what? Let's move on to the next song in Red that's
Okay.
gonna be played forever. I
Okay.
believe 22 is on that album.
True. That is true. Lyrically,
Who think about somebody in your life, like almost everybody in your life when they've turned 22, what song is played, regardless of if they like Taylor Swift or not. That
um,
song, 22.
happy birthday.
22 is played all the time with the birthday song, which is maybe the most popular song of all time.
Also,
Everyone knows the
21.
words.
Let me do something for you. I don't actually think I listened to 22 on my birthday when I turned
What?
22. Yeah,
That's ludicrous. That is
it's
ludicrous.
not that.
Okay, so you just outed yourself as like a Red hater. So that's
I'm not a red
I'm
hater. It's
glad.
like number 6. That's like halfway up.
The other thing about Red that I wanted to get into
Mhm.
is Taylor Swift's peak. Like I think as good as her career is going to get is this 10-minute version of All Too Well. To grab an audience's attention for a song that became extremely popular that's 10 minutes long that is really a bummer of a song. Like you can sing along to certain parts of it, but like you were talking about lyrically it's really good and that's because it's kind of a bummer. It also goes with this great music video that she made,
Mhm.
another great sense of her idea of celebrity, her connection to Sadie Sink, who's very famous, obviously, with a certain generation, Dylan O'Brien, who's very famous with a certain generation. Even Sean Levy being in that. I mean, he directed Deadpool and the Wolverine, so.
True.
But just her ability to understand culture, I think, is there. And believe me, I'm giving her a lot of credit here, which she deserves on that. And that's why I understand, right? Album consistency. I mean, you got a good Phoebe Bridgers track going with her on that album too. But I just feel like if it's like the peak of her career and it's still a solid album, maybe or
But
maybe I
some
guess
of the
it's
rest of the song or the albums on there.
I just don't know if they have the
Would you? Okay,
certified
let me ask you this.
bangers.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Take All Too Well 10-minute version out. Would you still rank this album higher? Because I wouldn't.
No.
The reason it
No.
got number 6 on my list is because of All Too Well 10-minute version. I will
But it's
fully,
like
fully admit that.
would the Patriots have won 6 Super Bowls without Tom Brady? No. But
I don't know. I
they
don't know the
did.
Patriots.
The answer is
That's
no.
fair.
The answer is the
That's
Patriots would
fair.
not have won 6 Super Bowls without Tom Brady. And it's because when you have the GOAT, it elevates the rest of your content. When you have the greatest of all time.
Yeah, but you take out the GOAT, then the team isn't as good.
Exactly. But we don't have to do that because it is there.
I
No
did.
one's getting rid of it. Okay. You know? It's your list. It's your list. You have to live with it. Just saying.
Thank you.
Sorry, that got a little intense. I think that's the most ratcheted up I've gotten on
What's
this
your next
podcast.
outfit take? I'm ready.
I just feel bad because I feel like you won that, and I just damn it. Okay, let's just go with the tracks that I know. I
Okay.
think I think folklore is ahead of Speak Now, which might be a little. It's less hot, right? Like obviously 3 and 2 on your list. Um, I like folklore because I feel like it is her best. Maybe that's faulty of me, but it's her best album lyrically. Like I think there's just a lot of different things she's doing. There's a lot of allegories she's making. Everything from Betty to the Last Great American Dynasty. It's an album that sounds good top to finish. I also think with folklore, you talked a little bit about in the Tortured Poets Society,
Mm-hmm.
that the music sounds the same, right? That it sounds, you get to certain songs and you're like, this one sounds the same as the last. Folklore, in sort of a similar way, has a lot of similar sounding tracks that are distinctive on their own. And I feel like that's a skill in its own. So, is are Folklore and Speak Now interchangeable, or do you think there's a gap between them that makes it pretty clear?
I think there's a gap. I I do. I do. There for a while, she kind of went on like a. Oh, she was like releasing albums every 2, 3 years. This was before like she just started releasing them. Boom, boom, boom. When she was in the sabbatical, for the longest time, I was like, "Speak Now is the greatest album she has ever produced." And
Mhm.
well, it's not number one on my list. I think lyrically, amazing. The songs all feel different. I think it is just such a solid album. And I think that I'm pretty sure that was the first album that she wrote completely on her own, and I think that that is really a
Mhm.
testament to her ability as a songwriter. And I think that she's grown and she's progressed, but I still think that even with the re-recording, top tier.
You just know me. I'm a Betty guy through and through. So I
I know
gotta.
you're a folklore guy.
I just it feels like the most like expressive of like her base level talents, right? It feels like it's not like overly produced. Like it is just if you wanted to be like Taylor Swift's got this, she's gonna go cook for a little bit. It feels like
That's true.
Folklore is the
But
album
I
I would go
also
to.
I feel like that's a testament to your music taste in general because you definitely lean like very folky,
That's
and
fair.
that's one of her most folky albums, that and Evermore. I mean, would you rank Evermore pretty high on your list? Probably for the same reason.
No, no, Evermore just
Okay.
feels like a cheap Folklore to me, you know.
Yeah,
But
I
but
agree,
that's why.
actually.
But that's why. So it's not like if it's like you said, if Folklore didn't exist, Evermore is better. But
It's
Folklore
true.
does exist, and I can't
Yeah.
dismiss it. I also think Folklore for me has a spot because it sort of introduced me to Taylor Swift, like in my own music taste, like separate from other people playing it, listening to it. That was sort of me diving into Taylor Swift.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I do gotta respect is my top three favorite albums are all in the top six.
What are
So
your top three?
okay, so we have two
Oh,
of them.
probably.
But number one, honestly, although I love Red, and although I would put Red higher, and although I love Folklore, I think you're right with Lover. Lover isn't my favorite, but I do think it's the best. It's the one that has the most amount of bangers. It's got a
Mm-hmm.
lot of good lyricism.
Mm-hmm.
Also like an underratedly really cool album cover by her. I think it shows a lot of her ability to be a sort of artistic protester, right? She's taken a lot of backlash just for taking a side politically, which I mean, we don't really need to get into, but like her ability to express how she feels through her music, in a way that sort of is in your face, but you know how sometimes music can be in your face and you're just like, cool, love being preached to you right now. She kind of made it fun, which I do
For
kind of
sure.
appreciate.
Yeah.
So I guess as we sort of wrap up our conversation on the albums, what I want you to tell me is why did Lover take number one for you?
I think you're absolutely right. First of all, I think lyrically, so fun. There aren't as many, like, for lack of a better term, hard hitters that you see in, like, Red. You know, Red has some heavy hitters, as we kind of already already discussed. I think Lover took the cake because aesthetically, you know, like you said, the album cover very light, very fun, very Lover
Yeah.
esque. So the aesthetic is fun. There are so many great songs. I honestly I don't know what I put as my least favorite track on there, but they're all so good, so amazing.
It's All of
And
the
then
Boys You Loved Before. That's the best one on there.
is that the one I put on as the worst?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay, good.
no.
I was
That's
like,
that's
no,
the
that
one
one's
that
good.
I think is the best.
That's your opinion, but
That's someone who's never loved a boy, you
wow,
know?
yeah, that's a great point.
Except my homies.
That's so true. I forgot what I was saying.
No, we were just talking about just how good Lover is and kind of just a lot
Oh,
of the different aspects of why
yes.
it
But
works.
I also feel like I look back on it so fondly, also because that era was
Hmm.
cut short, you know? She only did, I think, one show in Paris, which is on Spotify.
Hmm.
And then it just kind of ended, and we went into all of the other things that happened post COVID. But I do think that that also kind of played in because I was like, oh wow, this is such a good album. This was probably would have been such a good concert. So yeah, that's kind of why I put it at the top.
So to kind of finish, we're going to talk about what's next with Taylor. But first, I want to hit you with one question. I'm going to ask you. You got to just answer, right? It's just boom, right? First name that comes into your head. Best Taylor Swift ex-boyfriend.
Ex boyfriend,
Who came into your head first?
Joe Alwyn.
Yes, that is the right answer. That is
Oh,
the right
finally, okay.
answer. He
Joe
seems.
Alwyn. But then
Hey,
Jim Jones
I
came to
gave
my
you
head,
your
and I
cred
was
on
like, oh,
Lover.
that's not good.
No, what would have been wrong is if you would have said Matty Healy. That would have been a really
Or Jake
bad
Gyllenhaal.
answer. That's
Oh,
true.
Maddie.
Great actor though. We're a fan of Jake Gyllenhaal. We're a Jake Gyllenhaal actor positive
Can you say
brand
that?
here.
Can you say
We're
that
a
before we
J-
finish our podcast?
we're a Jake Gyllenhaal positive brand here at Quad Culture, mainly for his acting because I don't know anything about him personally, so I'm not going to endorse him as a person. Great actor though.
You're endorsing the album that's about him.
It's true. I do understand. I think I do understand a little bit about Jake Gyllenhaal personally, I guess. Um, because you watch that video at Sadie Sink. That feels like something that happened.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I guess when Dylan O'Brien and Jake Gyllenhaal inevitably meet at some sort of Hollywood function and they're chatting, what do you think what do you think it's like? Do you think he's like, "Hey man, what was that?"
Maybe. I
I
try
just
not to think about it because I can only imagine it being like, okay, Jake Gyllenhaal, I'll be honest. He's a wonderful actor, hasn't been painted in the best light by Taylor Swift. And I don't think that Dylan O'Brien, having been affiliated with this awful relationship, probably would be welcomed with open arms, you know?
Yeah, I mainly just wonder more than anything if it's awkward for him. Like if he sees
Oh,
Jake
yeah.
Gyllenhaal across the room and he's just like, "Hey."
Or he turns and goes the other way. I probably would if I were him.
So, moving on from the boys, because who cares about the boys?
Very true.
What does Taylor do next? Right? You put her most recent album, The Tail End of your list. Um, she's nearing a point in her career where, unfortunately, we see a lot of female artists lose popularity. Obviously, she's in what seems to be a very happy and fruitful long-term relationship. So, what's next for Taylor Swift? We're kind of in uncharted territory for her and her career right now.
Well, I know what I hope is next like I mentioned earlier, she has to re-record two other albums. So I hope that Reputation and Debut, Taylor's version, are both on the horizon. But other than that, I think it's so hard because I always tell people that aren't Taylor Swift fans, like, I'm sure that we can find an era that you will like because all of her eras are so
Mhm.
drastically different sound wise. And so, as for what I think she'll do besides re record those other two albums, I don't know. I think that she just has done so much in so many different eras, so many different genres that who knows what she's going to do next? Who knows what she's going to try? And that's kind of exciting.
Do you have any meaningful thought from the other side on why somebody might hate Taylor Swift? Because I was watching that documentary today. I was kind of just reflecting on her as like a person.
Mm-hmm.
She's not really out there that much. Obviously she has certain political beliefs, but I think those are going to be polarizing regardless. Can you pinpoint a reason why somebody is like hater? Because I don't understand. Other than maybe her fans, but that's also feels unjust. Can you think of like a
Sure.
fair reason? I guess.
Yes, I can. So, kind of just like I said about Reputation earlier, people love to hate something.
Mhm.
And I do think that because she is, I mean, she's been Woman of the Year, she is wildly successful, very well received. I think some people, to be like, okay, for lack of a better term, hang with me here, not like other girls, they
Yeah.
want to hate her. They want to hate on her to not be like everybody else, you know? Or genuinely just not liking her music, which everybody's entitled to their opinion, so that's fair. If they don't like her music, I think that's totally okay. But I think that those are probably the two leading reasons.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Lizzie, thank you so much for talking about some T Swift. Everybody should go
Thanks
read
for
your
having me.
article.
I hope so too.
One more thing before
Yeah.
you leave that I
Hmm.
do want to touch base on you a little bit with is what is a good movie that you've seen recently? Like, what is something that really grabbed you? I thought about asking you to just give a blanket recommendation, but I knew what that was going to be, and I kind of want something a little bit saltier for you. I want you to give me something a little bit more in your bag. I don't want life itself, is really what I'm saying. If listeners don't know, Lizzie loves life itself. Um,
It has like a
Decent
13%
movie,
on Rotten Tomatoes. It is a gem, though. It is so good.
but Lizzie's got good recs. She watches almost as many movies as I do. I think she's about 20 behind right now. Um, so you
Am I allowed to
you
check my letterbox or is that against the rules?
I'm up by 21. I just looked
No,
recently.
I just want to look at movies I watched recently.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
perfect.
Look.
Hold on. Everybody stand by. Sorry you have to watch me go on my phone real quick.
Yeah. So I felt like it was important for me to mention that I'm beating you in Letterboxd right now.
Are you beating me by
Mainly
20? That feels like kind of a lot.
it is a lot, and that's why I wanted to mention it.
Oh, you know
Main
what I watched that was really good?
Go for
I
it.
know you rated it really highly, so I know you're probably going to agree. Dee Dee.
Yeah, really good.
So good. I just watched it the other day.
Kind of uncomfortable in like the best way possible.
Yeah, it felt very. This is Dee Dee.
Okay.
For my viewers at home, this is Dee Dee. It's a coming of age movie that's rated 4 stars on Letterboxd. I watched it for the first time last week. Great coming of age movie. I feel like there for a while, coming of age movies were like everybody was making them, and now I feel like they're a dime. They're not like not a dime a dozen. I think that means the opposite of what I want it to mean. But you don't see them a lot, and you don't see them done well a lot anymore.
A reverse of a dime a dozen
Yeah,
a
a
dime,
reverse dime a dozen. They're not a dime a dozen right now. Thank you,
a dozen a dime, maybe.
if you will. Yeah, coming
I
of
don't
age
know if that
movies
makes
are
sense.
a dozen a dime right now.
So as we leave, listen to Taylor in whatever way you can. You know, listen to some 1989. Don't listen to this one on streaming, because this isn't Taylor's version.
True.
Just wanted to make
You're
that
warning.
clear. But this is my sister's probably from when she was like in middle school, so not gonna fault it. But Lizzie, thanks for coming on. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.